Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama. Very dangerous. I've already lost one. Most Bhagavatam speakers ain't got any front teeth. Just say Om Namo Bhagavate. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yena Pashupta Purusha. Yena Prasupta Purusha.
Yena Prasupta Purusha.
Swapam
Swapam
Vedatmanas
Vedatmanas
Tada.
Tada.
Swapam Vedatmanas Tada.
Swapam Vedatmanas Tada.
Sukham
Sukham
Cha
Cha
Nirgunam
Nirgunam
Brahma.
Brahma.
Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma.
Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma.
Tam
Tam
Atmanam
Atmanam
Avehi
Avehi
Mam.
Mam.
Tamatmanam Avehi Mam.
Tamatmanam Avehi Mam.
Yena Prasupta Purusha.
Yena Prasupta Purusha.
Swapam Vedatmanas Tada.
Swapam Vedatmanas Tada.
Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma.
Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma.
Tamatmanam Avehi Mam.
Tamatmanam Avehi Mam.
Yena Prasupta Purusha.
Yena Prasupta Purusha.
Swapam Vedatmanas Tada.
Swapam Vedatmanas Tada.
Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma.
Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma.
Tamatmanam Avehi Mam.
Tamatmanam Avehi Mam.
Yena Prasupta Purusha.
Yena Prasupta Purusha.
Swapam Vedatmanas Tada.
Swapam Vedatmanas Tada.
Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma.
Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma.
Tamatmanam Avehi Mam.
Tamatmanam Avehi Mam. Yena Prasupta Purusha. Swapam Vedatmanas Tada. Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma. Tamatmanam Avehi Mam. Yena Prasupta Purusha. Yena Prasupta Purusha. Swapam Vedatmanas Tada. Swapam Vedatmanas Tada. Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma. Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma. Tamatmanam Avehi Mam. Tamatmanam Avehi Mam. Yena Prasupta Purusha. Yena Prasupta Purusha. Swapam Vedatmanas Tada. Swapam Vedatmanas Tada. Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma. Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma. Tamatmanam Avehi Mam. Tamatmanam Avehi Mam. Yena Prasupta Purusha. Swapam Vedatmanas Tada. Sukham Cha Nirgunam Brahma. Tamatmanam Avehi Mam.
Yena,
by
who?
whom,
The Supreme Brahman.
the Supreme Brahman,
Prashupta, sleeping. Purusha,
Purusha,
a man.
man,
Swapam,
Swapam,
the subject. Oh, sorry, the subject of a dream.
the subject of a dream,
Veda,
Veda,
knows. Atmana,
Atmana,
of himself.
of himself,
Dara,
Vedanta,
at that time.
that time,
Sukham,
Sukha,
happiness.
happiness,
Cha, also.
also,
Nirgunam,
Nirvana,
without contact with the material environment.
without contact with the material environment,
Brahma,
Brahma,
the Supreme Spirit.
Supreme Spirit,
Tam, him. Atmanam,
Atmana,
the Paveda.
the Purveda,
Avehi,
Purveda,
just know.
just know,
Mam,
Man,
me.
me,
Translation. Know me to be the Supreme Brahman, the all-pervading Super Soul, through whom the sleeping living entity can understand his dreaming condition and his happiness beyond the activities of the material senses. That is to say, I am the cause of the activities of the sleeping living entity. In response, please. Know me to be the Supreme Brahman,
know me to be the Supreme Brahman,
the all-pervading Soul,
the all-pervading Super Soul,
through whom the sleeping living entity
through whom the sleeping living entity
can understand his dreaming condition
can understand his dreaming condition
and his happiness beyond the activities of the material senses.
and his happiness beyond the activities of the material senses.
That is to say, I am the cause of the activities of the sleeping living being.
That is to say, I am the cause of the activities of the sleeping living being.
The Prabhupada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When the entity becomes free from false ego, he understands his superior position as a spirit soul, part and parcel of the pleasure, potency of the Lord. Thus, due to Brahman, even while sleeping, the living entity can enjoy. The Lord says that Brahman, the Lord says that Brahman, the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan are myself. This is not by Jiva Goswami in his Krama Sandarbha. Om Gyanantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Astacharishacharine. So here we're talking about the antaryami. Anta means within. And in other words, Krishna is described in Bhagavad Gita as being in everybody's heart. And we spoke a few days ago about how, due to the presence of the Lord, the living entity is covered or is uncovered. And when he's uncovered, he starts to get real knowledge. And then by that knowledge, one can actually understand his real position. So that's one function of the Super Soul, to allow this living entity to enjoy this world by being placed in different degrees of ignorance. If one can forget his real position, then he can enjoy really a fictitious position. Otherwise, it's not possible. So that's one. That's so. The Lord is called all merciful. So he's self-sufficient. He's a self-sufficient philosopher who's been fulfilling everybody's desires in time immemorial. This is in the Upanishads. And so that's all that's happening in this world. Krishna is so kind, he's filling everybody's desires. And one way is to forget him. And then we can actually try to live separately from him. But it's impossible. Because, everything is Krishna. We are Krishna. This is not Mayavad philosophy. This is, Vaishnava philosophy that Ichinchi Beda Beda Tattva. We're the same in quality as Krishna, but not in quantity. Forget, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, or is it Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, forgetting Krishna, you fall souls, pain lives heavy. And the other function of the soul is to fulfill desires. Padasta Anumantacha. This is explained in the 13th chapter. The super soul is within. And it's not, the previous verse says the Prakriti, Purusho Prakriti Stahi, Mukti Prakriti, Gyanjana, Karana Guna Sangasya, Sadasad, Gyanmayo Nishu. The living entity is going through this world and is meeting with different situations, and due to that association, he's either enjoying or suffering different sensations, different situations. And then this verse says, but it's not just up to him. He says, Prabhupada makes the point that there's many transcendentalists, but it's difficult for them to understand anything beyond themselves. In this material world, we're very egocentric, and we're centered around our particular likes and dislikes. And the same in spiritual life is at the first level of understanding, we start to understand we're not the body. And Prabhupada said in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's very difficult for anybody to go beyond that point. It's very difficult to understand the super soul, but one who can, then his life can become perfect. So this 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita starts to explain about, the nature, the enjoyer and consciousness, about the philosophy of the living entity in this world and the nature of the Lord in this world. So he's covering and he's fulfilling desires. What's that verse? The Supreme Lord is directing the wandering of all living entities who are seated as if on a machine of the material energy. He's directing us also. He's actually covering and fulfilling desires. And so this particular part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord is explaining this to King Chitraketu. And there's no difference between the super soul and Krishna. That's just a different expansion of Krishna. We see the super soul 5 inches high. Is it 5 or 5.5? Something like that. Because we can understand that, can't we? We can understand, there's little super souls. There's no place without there isn't a super soul. You know that? So what goes in between the super souls? It's like sometimes we buy these jigsaw puzzles. Or you get these figures of men and they all interlock like a jigsaw puzzle. Have you seen that? There's no space in between. So, look, the Christians say the Holy Ghost, don't they? So that's actually also a very good explanation. That, the Holy Ghost means that, it's everywhere. He's pervading everything. So the super soul is one. And he's actually far, but he's also many. So he's one in, the first super soul is Karanadakashaya Vishnu. He's the super soul of the whole creation, the material creation. If he doesn't enter into it, there's nothing will happen. He enters into the pradhan. Pradhan, what's the pradhan? Is the potential for creation, isn't it? First of all, thinking, feeling, and willing. So this comes from Krishna. We think, yeah, I'd like to do that. We start to will to do it. Thinking, feeling, will be good. Then we will to do it, and we do it. So this is coming from Krishna. And that pradhan is our desires. And so when the pradhan is there, when the desire is there, Krishna enters into it, and then it becomes the Mahatattva. And so that means, okay, you want to do that, here's the facility, here's the ingredients, and here's the subtle body, and everything comes out of the Mahatattva. And even the creation we're trying to enjoy comes out of the Mahatattva. Just like going into a shop, you've got a desire, and the shopkeeper fulfills it. So then there's the Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. He's the super soul of the universe. Each universe has a Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and sometimes we call it the Virat Rupa. Anybody Virat Rupa? Virat means the universe, and Rupa means the form. So he's actually, the ingredients in the universe are coming from the body of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Without those ingredients, there's no universe. Even the subtle elements which cover the universe. So he's there in the universe. He's not just, laid on an antashesha and everything's, going on. He said, look at that. He's like, that's actually Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. And then Brahma comes from his navel, and he starts to utilize all the ingredients to create the activities in this material world. Which one's the first one? Anybody think? Which is the first one? Ether. I didn't hear a mouth move. I didn't see a mouth move then. Where did that come from? It's ignorance. First thing he creates is ignorance. And then that ignorance, anything in that universe is covered by ignorance. Then we hear how so many things come from ignorance, and then eventually, anyway, I'm not going into detail, but, and then of course, he entered, in order for the universe, now he's got the ingredients for the universe to work, he enters into the atoms within the universe and into the hearts of all living entities. Aparayami tastranyam prakriti vimebram jiva bhuta mahabhayo aho yayedam daryate jagat. So in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it mentions the ingredient. Manushanam saharsheshu. Not many people know this science. Out of many millions, nobody. What we're talking about now is not, it's like, we could say it's peanuts. We've heard it all before. But it's not to most people, they just cannot grasp it. And so this is very, rare opportunity. So he enters into, Aparayami Tastra, he says, Manushanam Saharsheshu, after many, many millions of living entities, hardly one can understand Krishna. And then, it says, then it gives all so then it starts to talk about the makeup of the material world. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Then it says, Prakriti Vidimet Jiva Bhuta. It says, but there's not just these elements, it's the Jiva who enters into this universe and starts trying to enjoy it, which causes everything. And then the super soul is there to facilitate. So this is a brief description of how creation takes place. It comes from the desire of the living entity. No material desire, no material world. even while we're in this body, there'll be no material world, it'll be a spiritual world. We'll experience spiritual bliss in everything we do. And we'll see everything through those eyes. I remember when I was on Sankirtan, it was in Liverpool, not far from Warrington, is it? It was probably the first or second time I went out. And all of a sudden, I got that realization. I thought, wow. I just saw, the whole of Liverpool, what they call that Main Street. And it was just like everything was dead. And there was, I just realized that everything's dead in this world. And it's only all these people milling about who are making it of any value. And I just completely understood that concept. And then next thing came along, next person who came along and gave me a $5. So, that was like the icing on the cake. Maharaj Krishna was saying, yeah, that's right, everything is. Here's a $5 just a minute. So what we're going to talk about, so I thought the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it talks about the banyan tree of this material world. What do they call that chapter now? I forgot what they call it. Yoga of the Supreme. Is that it? That's right, yeah. And in this 15th chapter, you start talking about the nature of the enjoyer and consciousness. So first it talks about, nature. One of the natures is two natures. What is a prakriti and aprakriti? There's a, no, they don't call it that. What do they call it? Paraprakriti, yeah. We're the paraprakriti, and there's a lower prakriti. And so it starts to explain about the lower prakriti, this material body, or this field of activities, right? So it says, so in order to understand the super soul, we have to understand the field of activities, right? What's the first thing in the field of activities? It's the, I forgot what it is myself now. Oh, here we are. Annamaya. Annamaya is like, it means that we can understand, we can see things outside ourselves and we try to eat it, and that's Annamaya. We don't even understand with a person. We just know there's this sensation and, we have to actually satisfy it. It's like a baby when he first comes out, oh, he looks so cute. He ain't got a clue what's going on. All he knows is he looks for food. And so the mother sticks a breast in his mouth. And so then he starts to, develop. The next one is pranamaya. So actually this pranamaya is understanding. What's it say? Understanding, let's have a look. He starts to understand that he's a living entity separate from everything outside. There's this is the first differentiation that takes place. And that everything outside of that is meant for his sustenance. And so what platform is that? That's the platform of everybody in this material world. There's me and there's a material world, and I use it to sustain myself. So this is a mode of ignorance. Mode of ignorance, knowledge in the mode of ignorance means just trying to keep this body and soul together. And most people are on that platform. That's why they're fighting. And then the next one is Jnanamaya. Is that what you said? Mahamaya. Jnanamaya means, so Jnanamaya means knowledge. Jnana means knowledge. So we understand, everybody's got some knowledge, but it's not talking about that. It's talking about knowledge from the Vedas. So in Jnanamaya, we start to perceive that we're different from the body by Jnanamaya. And then we start to work on a higher platform than a materialist, just working to sustain the body. So everybody in here is on the platform of Jnanamaya, right? We're all searching. And the next one is, these are all in the material consciousness. We're still in material consciousness. And then we transcend material consciousness by Vijnanamaya. Vijnanamaya means we try to use those things for self-realization. When we start to use things around us for spiritual development, this becomes a transcendental activity. So this is why they say devotees look as if they're doing the same things as everybody else. But because their actual goal is, higher, it's a spiritual goal, then they're called transcendentalists. So Vijnanamaya is a realization of the knowledge. We put the knowledge into practice by practical application, and then we realize the knowledge. And then finally, Anandamaya. Everybody knows that one. We all want bliss. So Anandamaya Bhyasat, we're searching for that Anandamaya. So who's Anandamaya? Krishna. Krishna's Anandamaya. And when we engage in Krishna's service, we become Anandamaya. So this is the process of, using the field of activities, because the field of activities is not just the material body, it's the subtle intelligence of mind as well. So when that field of activity, which we've just delineated, just outlined, is used in Krishna's service, we experience Ananda. And the next part of the Bhagavad Gita starts talking about the enjoyer. So the enjoyer is a living entity, and the other enjoyer is the Supersoul. The Supersoul is the supreme enjoyer. He's called Rishikesha. And sometimes that can be equated to the Supersoul. Rishikesha is a master of the senses. The Supersoul is guiding everything. Rishikesha, Rishikena, Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. By serving the Supreme Lord in that form, we start to get spiritual realization. So let me just read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Verse 13:16. Ahirantashta bhutanam acharam charanam evacha sukshmavat tad avigyayam durastam chantikechatat. The Supreme Truth exists inside and outside of all living beings. Not a deliberate mistake. No. The moving and the moving, because he is subtle, is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far away, he is also near to all. So now we're describing the Supersoul. It says in this body, there's another enjoyer, a transcendental enjoyer. It says, although the Supersoul appears to be divided amongst all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. So Prabhupada gives, I listened to a tape about Prabhupada actually, and he was describing this. And first of all, he started talking about generally about human life is meant for self-realization. Then he started to go into this verse. He said, Bahirantascha bhutanam. So bahir, what is bahir? External. Antas, internal. So Krishna is both externally present as Supersoul and internally present as Supersoul. And sometimes we say that the devotee is the external manifestation of the Supersoul, the pure devotee. When we meet a pure devotee who is free from all material contamination, then if we read yesterday, the other day, actually, about in the 6th chapter, how when the mind is completely controlled by a devotee, he says the super soul's already reached, we're already in tune with what Krishna wants. So then when we meet a pure devotee who's completely free from material contamination, then that's just as good as listening to the super soul. So that's been explained here. The super soul is internal and external. And the second point is, there is both subtle and gross. So what does that mean? Subtle, what does that mean? The super soul's subtle. We can't see him. We can't perceive him, can we? We can actually perceive him by intelligence and by realization, but we can't see the super soul. We can see the effects of the super soul. And what does gross mean? That he's, because of the presence of the super soul, he's a fire of digestion within the body. You know, so gross things are taking. He says, without the presence of the Lord, the fire of digestion doesn't work. So it's both subtle and gross. He's actually sanctioning everything we do. And then we go on to the next part of this. And it said, Prabhupada then said that in all situations in this lifetime, we should search for the super soul, both internally and externally. Anybody know a verse? That's from the 4 verses of the 4 seed verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Aham evaksam evagre nanyat yat sadasatpram tasma echat cha yobhishisheta sasamyaham. You know, the Lord's explained that, you know, I was before this creation, I'm present in this creation, and I will remain after this creation. Next verse explains how that if anybody sees anything different from that, then that's an illusion. And next part says that I enter into everything, but I do not enter into everything. Are those seed verses?
Yes.
That's, what's that third verse? 35?
35 is Maharaj.
Say, speak it.
O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything.
So that seems like a dichotomy, 2 meanings. And, you know, if we think about it, actually, he doesn't enter into it because he is that universe. You know, he's not, it's not that he's separate from that universe and he enters into it. He is the universe, and he's also he's already there. That's the point. There is another important point about that verse, which I can't remember now. I didn't have time to check it out. But anyway, that's it. And then the last verse, can you read the Sanskrit for the last verse?
Etavadeva jigyasam tattva jigyasunatmana anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvada. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly.
So directly means by devotional service, and indirectly means through the material energy. We should use both of them to understand this absolute truth. And this is actually also explained in the Upanishads. that one who can understand the process of nescience and knowledge side by side can transcend the material world. So this is so Upanishads is supporting Srimad Bhagavatam. And last one, Sukshmavat tad avijnanam. This is from the Bhagavad Gita verse. We're back to the Bhagavad Gita verse again. We did that one. Subtle and gross is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. And then Durastam Chantike Nachat. He's far, Durastam, situated far, and Antike, Chantike, near as well. So it says that, then Prabhupada finishes the class by saying that both Aradito Yati Hari Tapasya Tatakim, Naradito Yadi Hari Tapasya Tatakim. So Aradito, our worship, Aradito Hari Yadi Tapasya. Our tapasya in life should be to come to the point of worship, should be set around worship of the absolute truth. Aradito. Radito means worship. And Naradito Yadi Hari Tapasyata. And if our austerities don't bring us to the point of worshipping and serving the Supreme Lord, forget it. Don't perform any other austerities. So yeah, Krishna's far and very near. And has anybody got any realization? I mentioned this the other day, didn't I? When I was on Sangeetam, I left my keys. Do you remember? So there's another one actually. Would anybody like to give one themselves about super soul realization?
Maharaj, I heard one from Adokshaja Prabhu in one of his classes. He was mentioning about Mahatma Prabhu. I heard one from Mahatma Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciple. That was quite stimulating or inspiring, of course, and everything. So Mahatma Prabhu was distributing books, and he said he never approached anyone in his entire practice of devotional service going to give someone a book and speaking about suicide, say. But that particular instance, he approached a person and he gave him or her a book, don't know which book, but he said, like, reading this, one will never commit suicide. And something on those lines, Adoksha Prabhu can correct also. So, and the person went home reading that book, and later on he or she again came to see Mahatma Prabhu and told, thank you, you saved my life. I was actually going to commit suicide then.
Yeah, actually I had a similar story from, what do they call him now? Damodar. I don't know whether you remember Damodar, you won't remember him, but he was the temple president. Actually, he joined a couple of years after me, and we were on the same traveling Sankirtan party. And he was a handful. He was a real handful. But anyway, you know, he was intelligent, and he for a few years he was like the temple president at Soho Street. And he was saying he went on Sankirtan with the devotees before he got the temple president's job. And he went to one place, and, you know, there were nobody there. And they all thought, let's go somewhere else, you know. Let's go somewhere where we can actually do something. And then, I can't remember the story exactly, and then, or they got kicked out by the police or something. And so they went away, and then he was a Sankirtan leader, and he thought, you know, we should go back there. You know, this is actually Maya, just to hop from one place to another, trying to find somewhere where we should rely on Krishna. And so they all went back. Oh, that was it, actually. He went to that place, and it was a long way, and they'd spent a lot of time traveling. And as soon as they got in that place, the police stopped them. But just before the police stopped them, he stopped one person, and same thing. He said, hey, we're going to commit suicide. And so he gave him the book, and this person started reading it, and he started to, he more or less became a little bit more thoughtful about what he was going to do. And then straight after the police kicked him out, the first person he went on, that's as far as they got. And then afterwards, you were thinking, that's the best day's Sankirtan I've ever done. Yes, he saw the results of distributing. Anyway, we all have super soul realizing to some degree. It's called, sometimes it's called coincidence. Well, I'll go to our house. I remember I once, I just took Brahmin initiation, and I went on the altar, I'm full of myself. I thought, now I can touch Krishna, touch the deity. I thought, I better not, it's like, I don't think I'm ready for that yet. And then at that moment, Kinchana were at the bars at the manor. He said, Rabbi. I said, what? He said, give me that rose from Krishna's feet. I thought, wow. Krishna's sanctioning, it's okay, no problem. So it's 25 past, and yes, so we have a friend in the heart, and that friend is, there's different types of friendship. Friendship, like, we have to be friends with the police. Is that not a congenial friendship, is it? With the administration, it's something we have to do. That's one kind of friendship. That's called bandhu. Everybody has to be friendly with the authorities. And then there's next one is the maitra. Maitra means like familial friendship. We have friendship with the family. It's more congenial than friendship with the police, right? Sometimes. And then there's, what's that one? I forgot what it is. What do you call it? Suridam sarvabhutanam. Surit. Rit means the heart. So the friend in the heart. And that's the best friend. That's a real friend. In the Bible, they say, no greater love has the Lord no greater love has anybody got than the Lord's got for the living entity. And this is proof, actually, that as soon as we come into this material concept of life, Krishna comes with us. And he stays there until we actually return. So he's always there for us. And so this is a very important part about self-realization, to realize Krishna within the sphere of our activities, and not just seeing it as a mundane coincidence or just my effort. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay. Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Prabhupada ki.
His Holiness Dayananda Maharaj ki.